Hi, my name is Cecilia Puna, and welcome to this episode of Brave New Women. All around the world, there are amazing, ordinary women doing extraordinary things. Brave New Women is about giving those women a platform and a voice, and it's about changing the way that women are perceived, and it's a way of inspiring all of us to do the things that we've always wanted to do. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking to Gemma Sisia. Gemma is Australian, and in 2002, she founded a school called the School of St. Jude, which is a charity school in the Arusha region of Tanzania in East Africa. Almost 20 years later, the school now has more than 1,800 students. They're supporting and paying the university fees for over 400 students, and the school is run with over 300 Tanzanian staff. So welcome, Gemma.
Hello, Cecilia. Thanks for having me.
Gemma, I think that I'm going to be speaking to you, and we'll also be speaking to some of your teachers, maybe some of your ex-pupils, some of your pupils. So I'll look forward to meeting them as they drop in on us. But before we start, can you just tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, how you ended up in Tanzania?
Okay, so I grew up on a sheep and cattle property in northern New South Wales, about 40 kilometres outside of Guyra, or 1 hour north of Armidale. I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up with 7 very wild brothers. I think that taught me a lot of survival skills pretty much from birth. But after finishing university, so I'm a high school math science teacher. When I was at university, I met a wonderful lady or a nun who was running a school in East Africa, and she needed math science teachers. So I said, look, after I finish uni, I'll come over and help you for a few years. So when I went over there, that was the mid-90s. And, I don't know if you remember, but the mid-90s was the peak of the AIDS crisis. And that was prior to all the medicine coming in. And it was a lovely girls' school, private school. Parents paid school fees, so a standard private school. But sadly, many of the students that I was teaching, they were being basically not able to continue schooling, basically getting kicked out of the school because they were losing their parents to AIDS and they weren't able to pay for the school fees. So I remember that really upset me. And then my own childhood, like my parents did everything they could to put myself and my brothers through good private schools. I remember my mum would buy herself a dress once every 10 years because school fees was always the priority. So I was very aware.
I think you might have actually been to the same school as my mother. Did you go to Negs?
Yes. No, I taught at Negs.
You taught at Negs.
So,
okay.
Yes. Wow, what a small world. So, anyway, so I was very aware of what parents do for their kids' education. And so when I was in Uganda and teaching, I remember thinking, I wish I could build a school that didn't charge school fees. And when you're young, Cecilia, when you're young and you're under 25, you think you're infallible and you know it all and everything's going to be all right and you don't plan or do anything. So I came back to Australia and told my parents and my brothers that I'm going to build a free private school that doesn't charge school fees in Africa, and you can imagine how that went down. But anyway, one of my good friends from Armidale gave me $10 and donation and said, go for it, Gem. And I opened a bank account with the $10, and that kick-started the fundraising for our school. At that time, I called the school of St. Jude, and I called it St. Jude because St. Jude is known as the patron saint of the hopeless cases. So trying to start a school with $10, having never built anything in my life except for a guinea pig's cage when I was about year 9. So it was a pretty hopeless case that the school was going to get off the ground. Anyway, then I started fundraising around Armidale. I got a job for a couple of years at Negs, and I was teaching there. And the local Rotary clubs got on board, service clubs, churches, friends and family. And so we were able to raise about $20,000 to build the first classrooms. Then I moved to Tanzania in 2001. I had 6 months to get the school ready, and we opened the school at the beginning of 2002. So we are going to be 20 years old next year.
Wow.
So we then opened the school early 2002 with 3 students. We had a huge population of 3 students. And that's how it all started. That's my background.
Wow. And what was driving you, do you think? Why was it you that founded St. Jude's and not somebody else?
I think it's because of my history. So I think it was the fact that I learned from an early age that giving your children a really good education is very, very important. And I felt that after what I had seen in Uganda AIDS crisis, I had to do something.
Well, perhaps tell me about St. Jude's now. How does it look now?
So St. Jude's, so today the School of St. Jude basically is made up of 3 schools. We have the primary school that we started back in 2002 with those 3 children. And then we started a secondary school back in 2008. And then last year we opened another secondary school. That's our girls' secondary school.
And why?
In actual fact, Cecilia, come and sit here, Noreen. I have one of our girls here who is actually a student of our new girls' secondary school.
Hi, Noreen.
Everybody.
How are you?
Hi, Cecilia.
And what year are you in?
I'm in year 11.
Form 4.
Form 4.
Mm.
So you've got, what, 2 years to go?
So it's equivalent to like year 10.
Year 10.
Yeah, so she's got 2 years to go.
2 years to go. And when did you start at St. Jude's?
I started in standard 1.
In primary.
Yes.
In primary. And how is it? Tell me about what it's been like being at St. Jude's.
Being at St. Jude is so wonderful, and I'm very grateful to get this opportunity of studying at St. Jude because of the free and quality education I'm receiving here at St. Jude School.
So, Cecilia, all of our students, so we've got 1,800 students between primary and secondary, 100% of them are on scholarships. So Noreen is on a full scholarship, as is everybody in her class, as is everybody in her school. So a scholarship encompasses all the education, stationery, uniforms, boarding, transport, excursions, everything else.
Food, yes.
Oh, food, yes, food. When you're a boarder, food's always important, isn't it?
Yes.
Where does your family live, Noreen?
My family lives around here in Tanzania, just nearby the school, not so far. Should I mention that?
Yeah, so how far, like, to get from here to home? By car, let's say by car.
Let's say like 11 kilometers.
About 11 kilometres.
Mm-hmm.
And who's in your family?
Oh, I live with my mom and my 2 elder sisters. I'm the last born.
Mm.
And what's your favourite subjects?
Oh, my favorite subjects are chemistry, biology, and English.
Fantastic. And did you speak English before you came to the school?
No, not really.
Well, your English now is fantastic.
Sure. I'm very good at English nowadays, and I like to teach my fellow students and my fellow villagers at home.
Fantastic.
So why do you think English is so important, Noreen, to learn?
I think English is so important because in today's world, English is the major language in business, in everything. Without English, no service.
Mm. And how much do you work? How much homework do you have?
Oh, pardon?
How much homework do you get each night?
Each night, about 2 or 3 homework.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you work hard?
Yes, because I get ample time at my boarding, doing my homework compared if I could not be a boarder at home, their home course, which could distract my learning. But as I'm staying at the boarding house at St. Jude, I get ample time to do my homework.
And have you got lots of friends?
Yes, lots of friends in Jude community.
Mm. And what would you like to do when you finish school?
Oh, I would like to do international relations dealing with diplomacy and politics.
Whoa.
So Cecilia, I think you can see the spark in Noreen. To get a scholarship at St. Jude's, it's very competitive. So imagine a private school. So NEGS, for example, we're just talking about NEGS in Armidale. Imagine if NEGS was free of charge. How many people would apply for it? So basically, to people here, St. Jude's is known as a free school, but a good quality school. So we get thousands of applications for our scholarships. And so to get a scholarship at St. Jude's, you have to come from a government school, not a private school. If you're coming from a private school, you're not eligible for a scholarship. You then have to pass a series of exams, so entrance exams, because our mission, every school has a different mission. Some schools might have an emphasis on sport or music, supporting boys or girls, but our school is finding children from government schools who are very bright, but whose families would never have the means to send them to a good private school, and we give them scholarships. So you obviously passed your entrance exams.
Yes.
You remember coming to St. Jude's?
Yes.
So you came in grade 1.
Yes.
So what was it like going through the scholarship process?
For sure, it was really competitive because we were thousands of students outside the gate competing for this golden chance. And you had to try so hard, passing all the exams. And at the end, you realize that you have passed. It was a great happiness in my family and also inside me.
Mm.
So you did the entrance exams, and then after the entrance exams, you would have got interviewed and had to show documents.
Yes.
Because we have to make sure that the children coming at grade 1 are age appropriate. So we can't have 15-year-olds pretending that they're 7. So they have to show us a series of documents, and we want evidence that they're coming from a government school. And then we do a poverty check. Can you remember people coming to your house?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Should I mention the names?
Yeah. So what happened on the poverty check? Can you remember, or it's too many years ago?
I do remember a bit because some of staffs of St. Jude came to our house and they checked everything inside the house. If you have a radio or things like that, and they checked our neighbors, they have to make sure that you're not lying that you're a rich person, but you're lying that you're poor so that you can get a chance. Yes.
So when we go into our poverty checks, we have a team who go into the house and interview the family. And then we have another team who are quietly outside the house talking to the neighbours, the local shopkeeper, the kids playing, also gathering information. Because the scholarships of St. Jude's are so heavily sought after that we get a lot of people just trying their hardest to get in. So it's not uncommon for families to move to the slums a few months before our student selection season starts and pretend that they've been living there for a long time, or children being given to their grandparents and they say that their parents have passed away. There's a lot of scams. So our system of selection of students is really, really extensive. Then you come in, if you pass the poverty checks, which obviously did, you then come in for 2 weeks testing in probation. Can you remember coming to that?
Yes.
Was it nerve-wracking?
No.
You weren't nervous?
Nervous.
So after they finish the poverty checks, if they pass that, they then come into the school for 2 weeks so that our teachers can assess them and see if they are bright and energetic and eager, as we hope they are. And Noreen is an example of the 1800 here in our primary and secondary school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me about Noreen, tell me about your mother. Does she work?
No, she doesn't have a job right now. She's just staying at home. But at the first, she was selling cassavas and small fish.
Mm-hmm.
At the market,
No,
near
just
the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's very typical of our families.
Mm-hmm. And what difference will it make if you're working in international relations and diplomacy? What difference will that make to your mother?
First, I would like to improve the living standard of my mother, and not only my mother, but also improve the standard living of other villagers in my community, as to repay the quality of education I've received in St. Jude. Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So you'll be going off to university, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time?
Yes.
So after you finished high school in 2 years' time, do you want to join the Beyond St. Jude's program?
Yes, I really wish to join the Beyond St. Jude.
So Cecilia, we have a Beyond St. Jude's program that is a program after high school, so after year 12. And what that is because children like Noreen, all of our students have had a complete free education. And so before we support them to go to university, they do a year of service in a government school or some work in St. Jude's, teaching. So, for example, the year 12s who finished last year are currently teaching in over 40 secondary schools as we have this interview, teaching between them over 10,000 students. So you'll be doing that?
Yes.
What would you like to teach in a government school for the year?
English and biology.
English and biology. Yes, okay. And when I say they're teaching, they are teaching. They're not tutoring or assistant teaching. They have their own classes, their own timetables. Some of our Year 12 students teaching are even heads of departments because they might be the only maths teacher or physics teacher in the school.
Wow, and what a fantastic opportunity to be able to learn how to teach at such an early age.
Thanks, Noreen. So talking about alumni, I'd like to give you another surprise guest.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce you to, who is this? So this is Anna. So Anna, you want to tell Cecilia, what is your history with the school?
Hi, Anna. Lovely to meet you.
Hi. Lovely to meet you too. So I am one of the first graduates from the School of St. Jude's. I graduated from high school here in 2015.
So she was a part of our inaugural Year 12 graduating group.
Wow.
It was so exciting. We never thought we'd get to Year 12, so it was so super exciting when we reached that milestone.
Yeah, so after high school, I joined the Beyond St. Jude's program, and I did a year of service. I was a volunteer teacher at a government school. I was teaching commerce and bookkeeping. And then I went into uni. I did a Bachelor of Commerce in accounting, and I graduated 2 years ago, 2019. And then
we grabbed her. As soon as she graduated, we got her here at St. Jude's and employed her in our
finance department. And now I work with all the sponsors and donors who once paid for my own education.
Fantastic. How does the sponsorship work? Who are the sponsors? Do you have one sponsor per child, or is it?
Yes. So each scholarship. So Anna was on a scholarship when she was here at St. Jude's, and we have different scholarship packages. So if somebody wants to pay for her scholarship alone, and when she graduates, they come to her graduation. Normally, we would have around 80 Australians coming to our annual high school graduation, then that's $240 a year. For $240 a month, sorry. Then we have a half scholarship. So maybe two people, say you and your mum, half pay for Anna's scholarship. So that's a half scholarship package, and that's $120 a month. And then we might have 3 or 4 people support a scholarship, and that's a quarter package, where we might have 3 or 4 people paying $60 a month. So we have 3 packages. When you were here, were you sole sponsored or quarter?
Yeah, quarter sponsored. Two sponsored.
You had half.
Yeah.
So she was half sponsored, so she had 2 sponsors. And to be honest, Cecilia, I think the kids like that because it means that they get 2 sets of visitors, 2 sets of letters. You know, they've worked out the system. You know, double gifts.
So you know your sponsors?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Over 90% of our sponsors come from Australia, Cecilia, so nobody can tell me that Australians are not philanthropic. Our budget this year that we need to raise for all of our schools and boarding, because we have around 1,400 students in boarding. There's 26 buses in our bus fleet. We've got over 400 students at university, $6 million to run all of our schools. And Anna is one of how many staff in the receivables? 4 of you?
Yep.
We have 4 staff in our receivables team who are processing the donations and sponsorships as we try and raise that $6 million. And Anna is one of them. And in actual fact, we have another ex-student also who finished university. When did Innocent finish?
2020.
Last year.
Yep.
So we had another student who finished university last year, and so half of our finance receivables team are now ex-students.
Wow.
And so communicate. They receive money. They send receipts. They communicate with all of our sponsors and donors.
Mm-hmm.
So can you remember the names of your sponsors?
I do. So I had Jill Kinghorn and the Haley Morris family.
Are you still in contact with them?
Not really at the moment because I am off the school, but I get to communicate them as they're still sponsors to the school. So regarding their sponsorship to the other students who are still in the school, I still communicate with them, but as a staff, not as a student.
Yep. So once her scholarship is finished at the end of university, like Jill and the Morris family, both. So Jill's from Sydney and the Morris family, they're from Melbourne. Their scholarship moved on to a younger student. So we recycle. Yeah. And it becomes, an alumni.
And Anna, what do you love the most about St. Jude's?
What I love the most about St. Jude is that everything about St. Jude is just unique. The system of education here is high quality, unique, free, one that I've never heard about or seen anywhere in my country. And also, apart from just providing education, they also nurture you to become a global citizen, like learn other skills, sports, computer skills, religion, and stuff like it. Let's say, for example, the community service program that prepares you to go to uni and grow up, from being a student where everything is all structured for you. And now you're coming up to structure everything for yourself and for others as well. Yeah.
So the community service here after high school, Cecilia, is pretty tough on the kids. They have to work in the government schools. They're basically thrown into being an employee for the year. And between you and I think they learn more in that 1 year than they do in 13 years of formal education. It really, So how many students were in the classes that you were teaching?
I was teaching 335 students in 6 streams.
Wow, so that's like 60 kids in a class.
Yeah.
And how was that?
What sort of life skills did you get from that?
You learn how to communicate, you learn how to plan, you learn how to budget because you have a little stipend to help you with the transport and food. And then you also have to,
learn how to public speak.
Yes, how to public speak, because for the first time you're standing in over 100 students, like when you're a teacher on duty and have to look after the whole school, that it's all cleaned, things are in order, students all coming to school in time, and all that by yourself. So it's really tough.
Do you have to learn how to discipline the students as well?
Of course, I have to. Some students standing even taller than myself, and I have to discipline them. It's not easy.
But the thing is, Cecilia, that if they didn't have Anna, they wouldn't have a teacher. So the kids, they don't have a lot of discipline issues because the kids, you always have a few. Nothing can be perfect, but the kids realise that they're lucky to have this volunteer teacher for a year. So here at St. Jude's, we give the students an allowance each month so that they can, pay for food if need be, transport, maybe some clothes because they could look professional. And then we give them some teaching materials as well. And then they're just thrown out into the government school and good luck. Survival of the fittest. But by the time they finish at the end of the program, they're then very tough and ready to embark on the university, which many of them go. Like, where did you go to university?
University of Dar es Salaam.
That's the biggest, sort of most prestigious university here. But that's 12 hours driving from here. So, they've got to be tough and independent by the time they go there.
Mm-hmm. And how do your family see you now? Are they proud of you?
Very proud of me. Actually, my father is always saying, "You have made me proud." He says that every time, and I'm like, "How my father is forgetting things?" He says this every time. And I get to help them because I have 3 other siblings. My youngest brother is in class 6. I help with his uniforms. I pay for his transport at the moment, so they're very happy for me.
So it's making a difference to your family's life as well.
A lot of difference.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Anna. Fabulous to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, Cecilia, last year we started a new school,
Yeah.
a girls' secondary school, and all the students are in boarding. Its capacity at that school is for around 600. And so we thought a lot of people ask us, why do we have a girls' secondary school? Well, here in Tanzania, we have over 17,000 primary schools, but there's only about 500 high schools that have up to year 11 and 12. And so not everybody goes to the end of high school. So we thought that if we're going to build another school, it's good to build a secondary school because there's not many in the country. And then if it would be for girls, that would even be better because not a lot of girls get all the way through either. If families here have a bit of money, of course, their sons and daughters will go to school. But if they're short on money, it's normally the boys who will go to school and sometimes the girls may not able to. But I'd like to introduce you to the founding deputy, Judith. So Judith is one of the leaders of this new girls' secondary school, which is 1 year old.
Hi, Judith.
So this is Judith. Cecilia.
Hello.
Hi, Judith. Lovely to meet you. So
Nice to meet you too.
you're one of the founders of the secondary school. Tell me about that.
I'm the operations deputy for the first time. I'm a woman on that office, and my task is a bit on connecting with students and the school environment to make sure that they have all the necessary needs that they can help them supporting their education. So mainly I work to oversee their food logistics when they are at the campus and their discipline, their welfare issues. As you know, we have these students from vulnerable families. And now, in order for them to acquire their quality education, we need to see how they get that education compared with the environment they had and the new environment that they have at school.
So Judith deals a lot with the parents, Cecilia, because, our kids all come from really poor families. So there's a lot of welfare issues and a lot of, I think we have to educate the parents as much as the kids almost.
Sure.
Can you tell me about what do you mean by welfare issues and educating the parents? Tell me about that.
Well, to get into the school, you have to pass the poverty test, but then there is a section of our students that are really, really bad off, and we call them welfare families. We have across our 1,800, we have about 150 on welfare. And that's where we've got to really intervene pretty constantly. We may, depending on the issue, it could be that they just don't have any money or food, which we will then give them food.
Yes, when they go for holidays.
To the family. Or
yes.
Yeah.
It could be maybe dad's an alcoholic, so there could be a safety issue. So if it gets really bad, then we will host that student at another family. So we have an internal foster family system. I think the secret weapon of St. Jude's is our parent committee, don't you think?
Yes. We do have parent committees where they gather information on what they would bring in the school so that we may see the better ways for us to have the better connection on how to support the students, not only academically, but again with the families.
So our parent committee is made up of 50 leaders and each leader is voted in from their area. So give me the suburb. Where do you live, Cecilia?
I live in Paris.
Okay. So let's say
I live 14th district of Paris.
Okay. So all the families in the 14th district of Paris will vote for their area representative. Mm-hmm. So we might have 20 kids who live in the 14th district. They will vote which parent is going to represent the 14th district. Mm-hmm. And then you join other parent leaders. So our parent leaders, there are 50 of them across different suburbs and areas. And they're a tough bunch. Mm-hmm. So whenever we have issues with welfare or homework or uniform or whatever it is, the parent committee help us. So, for example, Cecilia, if you're not doing your homework, our staff here will deal with you to begin with. If that's a bit of an issue, it might get escalated to Judith. Judith might see, this is so important, we'll call the parents in. When she calls the parents in of you, your parents will come into the school, she'll talk to them. But then if that happens a couple of times, automatically 2 or 3 parents from the parent committee will do a welfare check at your home. Why aren't you doing your homework? Is it a kick up the pants issue or is it a welfare issue?
Yeah.
If it's a welfare issue, it'll go through the welfare, pathway, and the parent leaders and our deputies will work on a solution. If it's a kick up the pants issue, then you'll get a formal warning. After 3 formal warnings, you can lose your scholarship. So it's not a free ride at St. Jude's. You have to earn. You have to earn your.
Has that ever happened? Has anyone ever lost their scholarship?
Oh yes, about 5% a year will lose a scholarship.
Gosh,
keeps everybody honest.
I imagine. I can imagine.
And if you're one of our students, we'll say, Cecilia, we love you, but you haven't been in your homework, or you haven't been respecting the teachers, or whatever. You've had 3 formal warnings. We haven't seen any improvement, and so there are thousands of kids outside the gate who are willing to, make their scholarship 100%, worthwhile. And so, sorry, you've lost your scholarship. So there's a series. But if maybe you are not doing your homework because Dad passed away, on average 2 of our parents of our students pass away each month. So it's not uncommon for our kids who get to the end of high school, maybe they might have lost both parents by the time they get to high school. So maybe you're not doing your homework because Dad's passed away and Mum's now having to work, or maybe she's had to work in another town and you've been offloaded to the neighbour and that neighbour doesn't understand how close St. Jude's watches all the students. So then if it's serious like that, then Judith and the parent committee will move you to one of our foster families. Now, in our welfare department, we have a stock of 10 foster families who've already been vetted by our deputies, and because we've got 3 schools and our parent committee who are on standby in case of a student needing a home.
Why are the parents dying?
Well, what do you think they're
different issues. They are from vulnerable families. They might have some health issues that they haven't taken care of.
Checkups don't exist here. No one does checkups.
So you'll find someone is having a severe sickness, but with time, because they haven't got proper medication, because maybe they don't have funds to support their health issues, it's when they will accidentally their time to go.
Yeah, so, it's common for a woman to find out she's got breast cancer when it's too far gone.
Yeah.
It's also quite common for doctors here to misdiagnose maybe, ailments.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just it's the consequences of living in a third world country, which is why from day one we wanted to produce good students, because as a mum who's had my 4 children in the local hospital here, I am very sympathetic to maternal health here. So I've always wanted to produce doctors, and I'm very proud that the kids, you met Anna, who was a part of our inaugural Year 12 group, a number of her fellow students went into medicine. And they graduate this year. So we've got our first crop of doctors coming out this year, Cecilia. We've got 89 students coming out of university this year. Yep. 30 of which are in the medical profession. So as a mum who knows what the local hospitals are like, we need doctors. As an employer, we need good math science teachers and English teachers. And as a person who's built all the schools, we need engineers and architects and people who can think and solve problems like Judith. So they're the types of products that we're wanting to produce at St. Jude. So that's why we help them all the way to university and at the end.
Do you encourage your students to stay and work in Tanzania, or do you encourage them to have international careers, or it's just up to them?
Their parents actually sign an agreement every year. So when little Noreen, came into school in grade 1, her parents signed an agreement about what is expected from them. It's compulsory for them to come to parent interviews. It's compulsory for them to attend meetings. They have to ensure that their child knows the school rules. What are some of the other things? There's so many. They have to give 5 days a year volunteering, helping in the gardens or the school. because we've learned that the more the family are involved in the child's education, the better their education is. And what we're talking about?
The parent involvement, that helps us to have the better connection. As when they come, they help on preparing what the students their learning environment. For instance, if it's food, when they come, helping on arranging bins, if it is rice. So it gives us the better connection with them on how they get quality education with the food that they are having. Parents, they see this is what our students are getting here. And then it's part of them giving back to the school because they are given the free quality education that in normal area you would find a kind of our school. It is a private school, the privilege the students are getting.
What was your question, Cecilia?
Do you encourage them to stay in Tanzania or to go?
Oh, yes. So a part of the contract is I understand that my child's receiving a private education and they will stay in Tanzania or the African continent because there's a lot of African countries here that need the help. If my child goes to live in the first world, they will pay back their entire education. So that's basically what we've been drilling, and we really push community service, use your skills to help your community. You're lucky to have this scholarship, use it to build your community. That's been drummed into the children since they were little. Mm-hmm. So far our graduates are all within Tanzania or within Africa. And that's just because, like, I'm from Armidale and it's really hard to find a doctor now because all the doctors are full. So we desperately need doctors in the country, in Australia too, but we need them much more here. So we would much rather doctors to stay in Africa than to leave overseas. Mm. But of course, we're not going to be able to stop everybody. And that agreement is not really, I don't think we would ever go to court over it or anything, but it's like a moral or an ethical agreement, really. Mm. We'd never go to court. And of course, we'll lose some overseas, but so far close to 100% are still of our graduates within Tanzania. Mm. We do have a few overseas. Like one of our graduates is graduating from Stanford in a few months. But we have agreements with immigration that after they finish their course, they come back to Tanzania.
Mm. 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 And Judith, what's the hardest thing about your job?
Not hardest part. Everything needs awareness, getting knowledge, enough knowledge on what you're doing, what people need to do. So with the nature of our students, our community, we all need to educate one another. So the hardest part is to organize enough training or awareness programs to everyone so that we get into the...
She's being humble, Cecilia. Her job is very hard. Very, very hard. And she also is under me, so she gets a lot of pressure from me. That's standards, Yeah, because it's hard. What is very difficult is to have a high standard school in a country where the infrastructure makes it very difficult to have high standards. Yeah. And but I'm very lucky that I grew up on a sheep and cattle property, so I'm good with electric prodders.
And of course, you have lived here, so you are kind of like, you have the clue of like how to get to this environment. It's really different compared to her home country and our country. Really, we need to educate one another on getting the higher quality services.
And is St. Jude's having an impact on the community around St. Jude's?
Oh my gosh, yes.
How has that changed in the last 20 years?
Well, it was maybe 2 months ago, one of our vegetable suppliers made a speech at Assembly, and he was talking about he supplies all of our tomatoes and fresh fruit and vegetables, and he was talking about how he's been able to build a house and pay for the school fees and university fees of all of his children because, imagine supplying thousands of cabbages and tomatoes and onions and fruit every week to the school St. Jude. So that's just one supplier. We have over 200 suppliers, from uniform suppliers to tyres and laptops and IT and hardware and all types of suppliers. So, yes, a lot of people feed off that $6 million budget. And even just the salaries that our 300 plus Tanzanian staff get. All of those salaries are spent in town. Yeah. And they all pay taxes, so the government loves it. as well.
Exactly.
Not that we want to pay taxes, but, you know, the government loves the taxes. I don't think anybody on the planet loves paying taxes, but so the government appreciates. And then all of our students who finish high school then go and work in the government schools for a year. So the government school educational authority loves that as well.
Are there any other schools, I think, in Tanzania or in Africa that have been modelled on St Jude's?
From what our Australian commissioner, we've just got a new one in Kenya. She said that she's never seen anything the size of St Jude's anywhere. Sure. And she looks after about 6 countries, I think. Tanzania's just one. We say that we're the biggest charity school on the continent, and I am dying to find someone who's bigger than us because I would love to, you know, have someone to bounce ideas off and mentor, and as opposed to us always, like, we would have probably 2 or 3 groups a week coming in here asking us for help. But, but a few months ago I took our academic leaders down to South Africa for 2 weeks. It was one of the best trips of my life to see some of the really good schools down there. And that has given us a chance to see who we want to aspire to. So a lot of the schools in Tanzania want to aspire to be like ours, which is great, and we're supporting them. And but now we've got like 60 ideas we visited 8 schools, Cecilia, in 10 days. And gee, it was a great trip. We learned so much. And I had a great education back in Tanzania. And I was blown away. Imagine, like, one of our headmasters has never even been on a plane. So imagine how he was blown away. Yeah. He's actually your headmaster. What did he say about his trip to South Africa?
Interesting. Yeah. Everything was fabulous. Everything was new. And with that trip, from himself, it transformed him, and the pressure that he has, like things he wished them to appear, and like we practice them, the pressure is very big. Like, can we do this? Can we have this? This is what I've learned from my trip, and I want it to be here. You can imagine. So it is a bit like a very great exposure for staff to have such kind of trips for learning so that we can improve what we have. Yes, we have great things, but again, learning from others, that gives us another exposure of using our talents and skills to improve better.
So, for example, you know, was it last year, the year before, we were top in the country for the high school results in advanced mathematics, which is, we're a STEM specialised school. So sciences and maths are what we really push. So to be number 1 in the country for advanced mathematics, that's a great milestone. But it's also hard to keep that position. And it's also hard to think that you need to improve, because all you know is the schools around you. So that was why we wanted to go down to South Africa, because the South African schools are on another level. They're like your GPS schools that you find in Australia, you know. And so we go there and we see what their music sections are like and their sports sections are like, and their debating and public speaking. Like, all these schools, they have national players as the head coach of each sport. So we went to one school and one boy is in the Olympic team, another one's on the national golf, you know, team. Like, the standards are out of this world. You go into an art class, you want to become an art student. Mm-hmm. Then you go into a maths class and you're just seeing the best maths teacher. And I'm a maths teacher, and yet I thought I met the best maths teacher I've ever seen in my life, just randomly in these schools. So it's given us all, something to aspire to, Cecilia. And that's what has been a part of our growth from day one, is continuous improvement. Just if we improve 1% each year. So Judith and I are currently working on our library systems, for example. And we want our library systems to be better than our library systems last year. Yeah. And then, you know, it'll be something else. It'll be clubs, or it'll be boarding. So there's always improvement in every second, and I think it's a blessing, because I've lived here for 20 years. So this is my home. Yeah. You know, whereas I could never do this remote managing thing, because you've got to be here every day. And I was very blessed, actually. We've got 6 Australians who didn't race back to Australia, back to the safety of the Australian hospitals. They decided to risk their health. And we have 6 other Aussies who are here, who have stayed here throughout the pandemic. Incredible women. And then we've got our 320 Tanzanian staff.
Tell me about the pandemic. How's that been for you?
Oh, okay. Well, here I think this country is what would happen in a country if nothing happened. So we are your baseline. So we've had no lockdowns. Our airports have been open. We're not wearing masks. We're social distancing. Yeah, our social distancing is not very good. Markets are full. Buses are full. So basically, I think we have seen 3 waves. This is my own personal.
Yeah.
I mean, we all might think differently. Our first wave was April last year. I felt that it lasted for about 6 weeks. Then from May to the end of the year, totally normal, except we didn't have the hundreds of thousands of tourists that we normally have because we're near Kilimanjaro, Serengeti. We've normally got all the safaris and mountain climbers through this area. So that was quiet. Then it hit again in January, February. That was pretty hard. I think that's of the 3 waves. I think that was the worst one. Or do you think this one is the worst?
This one is the worst.
Do you think this one's the worst?
Yeah.
And the second one? Okay, so we 2 against 1, Jude. So
okay, you guys won.
Anyway, so January and February was bad, and then it lasted for 6 weeks, went off again, and now we're in the middle of a 3rd wave, and Judah thinks this one is the worst one. So this one's also bad, but I think we're on the outer side. I think we're on the other side of this wave.
Yeah.
I think we're on the downside of it.
Yeah, it is going down.
Do you think, or is it still escalating?
No, it's going down now.
Yeah. And, so it's just, here in Africa, we've got everything from malaria and Ebola to cholera.
Yeah.
No, it's not an issue. Like, people don't discuss it here. Yeah. Just get on with life.
Any kids have been sick?
No. Well, we don't know. It's not easy to get tests here. Vaccinations have only come in the last maybe month. We haven't lost any students to COVID, thank God. We haven't lost any staff to COVID.
No.
We have lost parents of staff and students. But we lose staff, parents and student parents normally anyway. So it's hard to know.
For us, it has been easy because we follow the protocols, corona protocols. We try to tell our students, like, we know our community is like this. We don't go out. So we try as much as we can, like, to follow the protocols, like distancing. Then, at least washing hand stations are there so that if they do that, it's easy for us, like, to track.
So, for example, our boarding schools are a little bit like a family, but our staff commute every day. So, in fact, our staff could bring corona in. But, I mean, I don't know, Africans are pretty tough. They're used to their bodies, their systems are quite immune. Immune systems, I think, are tough.
Yeah.
So, I think, anyway, so, I mean, it hasn't been good. Financially, it hasn't been good because a lot of our families rely, like, we might have fathers or mothers who are maids in hotels or are supplies to the hotels. But thankfully this year, we've seen a return in tourism. So we've had Americans here at the school, Europeans. My husband and I went down to Zanzibar a couple of weekends ago. We couldn't get accommodation because of all the tourists there. So there is a return, but I don't think you Australians will be allowed to, you're in Paris, but the general Australians, I think they're going to be locked up for a few more years, I think. But here in Tanzania, we are getting tourists back. But at St. Jude's, because over 90% of our support is Australian, normally we would have around 1,500 Australians visiting us each year. And so that hurts. From a marketing perspective, because every visitor goes back as an advocate. From a supporter, like financial, a lot of them support students when they're here. And so that's hurt us, Cecilia.
Gemma, where could you see the seats? Imagine the school being, say, in 10, 15, 20 years.
Look, originally the school was supposed to be for a village school and kids could walk to the school. Now we have 26 buses and we are recruiting students from 3 regions, like 400 kilometres away. So it's already surpassed my dream. The girls' school, which Judith helps to lead, that started last year and I never thought that would happen. My goal is having the school financially viable and also labour viable, so that if I'm not around, the school will continue. So since we stopped building, which is when we got our first year 12s, we're still building, but not to the same extent. We started a future fund where we can put bequests or unrestricted donations into that, hoping. Are you familiar with Rotary, Cecilia?
Yeah.
I love Rotary, and they have this foundation that the interest from their foundation funds a lot of their projects around the world. So we are working towards, so by the time I retire, a lot of the annual expenses from the school will come from the interest of our future fund. Mm-hmm. So we're working on that. And then the other side is localization. So our strategic goals from day one has been localize. So
what do you mean by localize?
If you visited St. Jude's 15 years ago, 20 years ago, most of our teaching staff were wonderful Aussies or Canadians or Irish. Our last expat teacher left the classrooms in 2009. However, a lot of the leaders of the various departments, our IT, sponsorship teams, marketing teams, accounts, finance, were all full of expats. Now we're down to 6 or 7 of us left. So the entire academic side, every single school, right up to the headmaster, even our academic manager, complete Tanzanian. So that's what I mean. So our entire IT team is now Tanzanian. Our entire finance team are Tanzanian. So normally I've got an expat overseeing the marketing, and then I have an expat overseeing the fundraising. But she oversees, like, for example, 3 teams full of Tanzanians. So, 60 staff who are Tanzanian. So, that's what we're still working. We're still, our current strategic plan is in place till 2025. So we just keep chipping away at it, just bit by bit. The word here in Swahili is pole pole. So pole pole, we just keep slowly moving, going forward and increasing. But my idea, I don't have any dreams to open another school. It's about consolidation and protecting what we have so that it can run for the next, 1,000 years. So good governance. So we've got a good board over each school, and then the NGO that oversees the entire project has its board of directors. Then we have a board in Australia, a board in America. So that's 6 boards. So good governance is important. The financial side, financial viability. So we have projections for the next 5 years. How many students can we help at university, that sort of thing. Because we have to ensure that a student who is coming in at grade 1 is assured to get all the way to the end of university. So my goal in the future is I'd love to have some of our ex-students as board members. My ultimate, I think, would be when my youngest daughter, who's 8, if her doctor can be an ex-student. That would be my ultimate. Talking about little students, I actually would like to introduce you. Thanks, Judith. Just to go back.
Thanks, Judith. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
So each year we bring in about 150 new students on scholarships. But this year we gave the thumb to Corona and we brought in a record number of new students, Cecilia. We brought in 220 or 240 new students this year. Most of our students come in at the secondary because that's where we've got 2 secondaries now, but we still have a primary. This is Julia.
Hello, Julia. It's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And each year we bring in little ones, and they're all very wild because they come from different government schools. So we've got to teach them how to use, toilets because we don't have drop holes. We've got to teach them the school rules. And Juliet is our breaker-innerer. So she breaks in all of our newbies, the little ones, and they're so cute. So whenever I'm having a down day, I go and watch the little ones having their lunch, and it's just gorgeous. So this is Juliet, who deals with all our newbies.
Tell me about that, Juliet. About what does your job involve?
Sorry?
What is your job?
Okay, right now I'm dealing with the little ones, age 5 to 6. Yeah, it's very exciting because everything for them is a puzzle. So you have to put them in place. Like, yeah, you have to do this so as you can do this. You have to do this so that, yeah. So that's basically what I'm doing.
Can you give me an example? Give me an example of what you have to do this so you can do this.
Okay, let's say table manners. Yeah, it's lunchtime. They're eating. You just find one talking with the food in her mouth. So you have to tell her, like, you're not supposed to talk until you swallow your food. It's when you talk. Yeah.
And what are they like on the first week of the school after they've just got their uniform? What's the first week of class like with the new students when they're just enrolled?
Okay, first they'll be so quiet.
Oh, okay.
Just looking at you, like whatever you speak for them, they don't know English. So you have to translate. So at first you speak English, you give them instruction in English. So at first they'll just look at you like, have you spoken Chinese or what? Yeah. Then you translate it is when, so that's what you're supposed to do.
Into Swahili.
Yes. Then second week, they'll be excited, looking forward for breaks to play, because where they're from, there are no swings, there are no slides. So when it's break time, like everyone will be excited to go out. They'll take their tea very fast and then go out to play. Yeah.
And what are they like on the computers when they see the computers for the first time? Because our kids, their homes don't have electricity or anything like that. So they don't have devices or anything like that. So St. Jude's is the first place where they get an electronic.
Yes. What I can say for them, I'm not teaching them computer, but for them, when it's ICT lesson, they're all excited. Like you'll just find them at the door waiting for the teacher because they'll just click each and everything they see. Yeah. So that's the excitement they get when they go to the for the computer lesson. Yes. Yeah.
And how long does it take for them to learn all the little different things that they need to learn to be?
Okay, mostly a month or two.
A month or two.
The little ones. So for them, it's easier to get to follow the instruction. So once you tell them, like, here we need this and this and that, so they just follow that because they're scared to go back to their the school where they're from. So for them, this is it's golden chance, I can say. So no one among them wants to lose the chance of being here. Yeah.
Were you at St. Jude yourself? Were you a student?
No.
You weren't. No,
I wasn't.
She's been here for a long time, though.
Yeah.
She was young, though, when you came.
I can say. Not very, but yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And what do you love the most about St. Jude?
I think everything was so different with what is out there. Okay, St. Jude is my second school to teach, and I can see the difference, like the resources, the people you meet, the professional development we get here is so different. Well, if I compare myself to the day I came here to this, I'm a totally different person, I can say. Yeah. And I'm proud, like, even when I'm out there, I'll just stand and tell them, yeah, I'm working at St. Jude.
It's a big pride thing. It's a status thing if you work here, Cecilia. Yeah. We if we put an advertisement out for a new job, we'll get in excess of 500 applications.
Gosh.
Within 48 hours.
And Gemma, are you thinking of retiring anytime soon?
No. But I have underneath me 8 very strong managers. So a manager oversees a number of departments. So I have those 8 managers take most of my load from me. So I have an academic manager who oversees each head of school. And then I have a fundraising manager who oversees all the sponsorship and donations teams. Then a facilities manager who oversees the bus fleet, the IT, because we've got it's probably up to around 900 computers now across our schools. And then, anyway, there's 8 managers. A finance manager who sends monthly reports to the board on income and payables and procurement. And then we have a community manager who deals with all the student selection, health and welfare. So they take most of the work. So my job really is compliance, dealing with the boards, feeding information through to the board, compliance, and then initiatives. So 80% of my job is standards and bringing in new ideas and just pushing that. Yeah, I push everyone. On new ideas. So at the moment, we're rolling out because we're trying to get our kids to have better English. So we're just rolling out now a big ESL software program where students have 2 periods a week with headsets where they have to speak and hear native speakers of English. So we're hoping that little ones who you have, do they enjoy it? Are they?
Yeah, they really enjoy it.
Yeah. So little ones, if they get 2 periods of native speaker English, hearing and talking, by the time they matric at year 12, they should have good English. So we're rolling that out. That's an initiative. Another initiative that we learned in South Africa is all staff members have 2 jobs. So Juliet might be a grade 1 teacher, but then she loves netball. So she might coach the grade 2 netball team. Or I might be a maths teacher, but I love public speaking. So I'll be a part of organising public speaking competitions within the school. So we are rolling that out as well with staff. Everyone has to pick. So at the moment, we're producing menus of sporting teams who need coaches and extracurricular clubs and those sorts of things, menus so our staff can pick. So that's just a couple of initiatives out of 60 that we want to enroll, that we want to do. And each initiative takes like 20 meetings. So that takes most of my time.
It's a very creative, in fact.
Yes, like I'm actually not a very creative person. I'll own that, but I'm really good at copying. So if I see something, even buildings and designs, I'm constantly taking photos or videos and that sort of thing. And even like I was saying, when I was saying to you before, like 2 or 3 groups, people want to start an orphanage or a school or a hospital or some sort of NGO that come in asking for advice every week. I just say take as many photos that you want or videos because we're all in it together. And I wish when I'd started, I had someone to help me. And so, yeah, we are very happy to have people here. We even had just a few weeks ago a school from Zambia come up, their school leaders, and they stayed here for about 2 or 3 weeks just copying and writing down and, exactly what we did in South Africa. So, I mean, everyone is aspiring.
Fantastic. Gemma, I've just got 2 questions before as we finish up. Unless you've got somebody else you want me to meet.
No. I think you've got to get back to class.
Yeah. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, me too.
I think her little ones are due for morning tea.
Yeah.
Just got to go and work on their table manners.
There are 2 things I wanted to ask you. The first was how has the experience of creating St. Jude changed you as a person?
My mother will tell you that I've gotten very hard. I'm tough. So, living through very many life experiences, crises, I think managing over 300 staff. So I've become tougher and harder as a person. So I'm not as naive as I was when I was younger.
Does that bother you?
It does, but you've got to be tough to survive here in the third world. And that's why I was saying I don't think people here are concerned too much with COVID because survival of the fittest is what you have to do anyway when you live in Africa. So I'm very proud that I am still here after 20 years. I can think of hundreds of people who have left and, so I'm proud of that fact. I think I'm much more tolerant of and because I grew up in a very sheltered, conservative country family. The biggest diversity you'd have is the Catholics and the Protestant and the Church of England churches in town. So I have become much more tolerant and aware of different nationalities and religions and cultures, and I think that's also a blessing. Yeah, and I've also, St. Jude's has also exhausted me. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, in every way. It's a very hard lifestyle. You definitely don't. Like when people want to start up something, I always tell them, look, don't think you'll be able to remote manage, because you'll never be able to have good standards with remote managing, and don't think that you can, it's going to be easy or glorious. Like a lot of people think that working in the third world is, it's so romantic and, oh gosh, no, it is hard. But I'm lucky. I grew up on a farm with 7 brothers. So by the time I was 15, I was expected to be able to shear sheep, shoe horses. So my father was very tough, made me get a truck license as soon as I could. And so I wasn't brought up in a family where I was, cushioned in a way. And I think that's been a blessing. So I saw my father being a plumber or electrician, because to get someone from town would cost $200 just in transport, fees. So, so I was blessed with my upbringing. I also have a lot of faith. So I believe in God, and I think that has also helped me to have faith. And things will always pass. It doesn't matter how bad things get, Cecilia, they always pass. Sometimes here I just think I've just got to get to lunch. If I get to lunch, then my next milestone is 5 o'clock. And just get to 5 o'clock. So sometimes it gets so hard in some of the crises. So COVID was pretty bad last year when 3/4 of our parents lost their livelihoods, because we rely heavily here on tourism. And but I have the best crisis management team. So I bring the 8 managers, and then within a couple of weeks, we had produced 2,000 COVID support packs full of food and sanitizer. And then our parent groups and our buses went to over 200 bus stops and delivered all of these things to all of our families. And then, so hard times, I've learned if you can just get through them, on the other side, there's always like a rainbow. So COVID's been very difficult, but it's brought our school community together. It's also given me chances to do the COVID packs. The COVID packs that were delivered, so we packed them in our dining hall. Then our bus drivers drove for 2 or 3 days, delivering them with all of our parent leaders. And then, out of the blue, our alumni start doing all this fundraising. And our alumni finance another 1,000 food packs. So they're like in big sacks. And inside you'd have staple foods like maize and beans and rice. And we packed another 1,000 packs, and they went to our welfare families, the 150. And then the remainder was taken in our school truck and delivered to the slums. If COVID wasn't there, I would never have been able to have that opportunity. It was one of the best times of my life. Also, the fact of the boom in Zoom. So you and I wouldn't be talking if there wasn't a boom in Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have been able to speak with so many Rotary clubs and service clubs and various podcasts without having to leave the school. And that's been a blessing. So with COVID, it's actually brought the outside world to St. Jude's a little bit more, whereas people in the past may not have even known we existed.
The last question I've got, Gemma, is if you had a message for people who are listening, or if there's anything that we've missed or anything at all that you'd like to finish up with.
Oh, well, look, here at St. Jude's, all I can say is that we have very worthy students who need help with their education. So even a $10 donation through our website can help, buy a bucket of carrots that might feed a table. Then you've just met some of our staff. Those staff rely on salaries that are all 100% paid for by donors. And So we are a worthy cause. Our accounts are audited by Ernst & Young each year, and we have great governance across our schools. And I would request people just to do something. It might be to follow us on Instagram and share our stories with their friends and families. It might be to host an event, an awareness event, maybe with their business, maybe having all their neighbours, having a little coffee. We've got PowerPoints and promotional things that someone can do. Even you, Cecilia, just the fact that you lifted a finger to help interview me is now going to help spread the word. So spreading the word in any way or form is appreciated. And, of course, financial. But just do something. My request is just do something to help your fellow neighbour. We're so blessed in Australia. We seriously am. And, you know, just giving a little bit of the blessing that we have in Australia with someone else on the other side of the world can make a real difference. So, for example, as I said, we've got many doctors coming out. Imagine the impact of a doctor in a 40-year working, system. How many women are each of our doctors going to be able to positively affect? And each of our doctors, you know, somebody paid for their desk, somebody paid for their textbooks that they were using, someone paid for the salaries of the teachers. It's just a group effort of thousands of people who come together for one mission, which is fighting poverty through education. And so just do something.
Well, Gemma, just speaking to you and speaking to the people that you've introduced me to, I mean, I've had tears in my eyes so many times during this interview. I so strongly believe in education, in high quality education. I think that's the thing that's going to make a difference. So I wish there were hundreds of thousands of you doing the same thing. And I'll certainly spread the word and make sure that as many people as possible know about St. Jude's and help and can start helping financially. So thank you. Thank you for your time and your day.
It's been fun, and I'm glad the internet has held out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Gemma.
All right. Well, God bless, and thanks very much.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Brave New Women. Certain podcast sites such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts or Podchaser let you leave a rating and a review. The more ratings and reviews we get, the more people will listen and the more these women's stories will be shared. So I'd really appreciate it if you could. Thanks for listening.